And so we come to know these youths and show these youths. Talk up yourself, the youths to know them roots. Nurture them, protect and love and hear these youths. Music make them know I love we show these youths.
Mr. Save the youth, I kill the youth, I talk up youth, I build the youth, I trick and fool and pill the youth, I talk up youth, I build the youth, empower and then skill the youth, I talk up youth, I build the youth, talk up youth in Jamaica, we are
kill the youths there.
Talk up youth in Jamaica.
Hi, my name is Dwight. I'm 24 years old. I'm going to be one of Jamaica's most iconic, influential actor, and this is my story. Growing up, it wasn't easy for me. At the age 6, I lost my house, and this is where I used to live. I remember my worst memory right here is when I was sleeping in a cardboard box, and I was sleeping and some police approached me and they wanted to take me away from my mother. What really inspired me is the day when they wanted to take me away and my mom came and said, "I'm going to take one of my picnic them." And to see my mother stand up for that and fought for us, that was really, really, really wonderful. Growing up for me, was where we lived, sleep, we did everything right here. Swimming in the sea, selling on the beachfront right there, and that was my life growing up. And growing up, my childhood was one of the childhood that nobody would want, but growing up, it was really, really, really rough for me. But despite the roughness that I went through, I overcame the obstacles that I faced. So growing up and faced childhood abuse, that was devastating for me because sex was brought up to me from a very early age. Coming to understand how I was conceived in a cane field where my father forcefully sexed my mother half and my mother got pregnant. The story of me getting birth and my mother, when my mother was pregnant with me, it was really tragic. I know that you were a child that your mother got pregnant with you, but she didn't want you because my mother didn't want to have me when she got pregnant. Knowing that she had a 7-month-old child who didn't have a father support, she didn't have a job, she didn't get to go to school, she can't read and write, so she didn't have a job. But at the end of the day, she did carry me through. While in her pregnancy, she poisoned herself. She was taken to the hospital where they had to flush out her system at 5 months old because what? When my father got her pregnant, 2 weeks after, my mother didn't know. My father was the one who announced to her that she was pregnant. And he was doing it as something like it was something happy. 5 months after, my father steal and he went to jail. So when I was born, I was not born. I didn't see my father. I didn't know my father until the age of 10 years old. And even when I know my father, he still didn't want to be a part of my life. I wonder why. Growing up at 4 months old, I can recall my mother telling me I was very a sickly child because guess what? They took her and they threw her out of the house with me from I was 4 months old by her own family, and I find that really disturbing because I am 4 months old and you're going to throw out a 4 months old, and that's when I developed asthma. I don't know if people know, but them say when you have asthma you have to in and out in a hospital, but I was not in and out. Them cut me on the banana tree, and growing up, me see grow out from me. You understand? And knowing that my mother pregnant with me and I tried to kill me, I was not really proud of that. I was not happy to hear that. But at the end of the day, it's really good to know that I'm still alive and God has kept me here. Growing up for me, I remember going to school. There were times when I couldn't go to school. I was somebody. Me not make prayer get me. Anything when me want, me I ask for. That was me. That was the type of student I was going to school. So going to school means to beg $10 and $20 to survive in a high school. In my last year of high school, I wanted to be an actor, and I was pursuing my career in acting at Herbert Marcy Technical High School.
Refreshing, that's the promise we make with Ever Bottle of Water, Jamaica's own natural water. Quench your thirst with a bucket of water today from all different sizes, small, medium, and large, purified, ozonated, and UV treated for your health and safety.
In my last year of high school, something really bad happened. I was picking some apple and I dropped from a tree, and while I dropped from a tree, I was trying to get up and I realized I couldn't get up because when I look at my leg, you could just see it's flimping, like you see that something was really wrong. God has saved my life, because the reason why God has saved my life, I could recall dropping, and if I go over like 1 inch, a steel would go straight through me and I would die. And at that, I gave up on my passion for acting. I gave up on my dream, and Growing up, I didn't really feel no love from my family, to be honest. I left Montego Bay at age 18 and I went to Kingston to venture off with my life because of my lifestyle. And when my family found out about my life and my sexuality, it was a big issue for me. And when they found out, everybody turned against me. My entire family didn't want to do anything with me. I felt hopeless. I felt like I didn't want to live. I attempted suicide 3 times. And I just gave up on life because I said, why living? If living and you make a simple mistake and your own family will forsake you. But at the end of the day, I didn't give up because God never forsake me. 3 years later, I was being there, and a couple of years later in 2015, I was at a party because my life, I was just partying, having fun, and just that, I think that was really life because I didn't understand life. Nobody was there to teach me, to help me to understand, or to make me know what was life all about. So growing up for me, I had to understand life for myself. It was last year in 2015, I was there and I went to a party. I didn't feel well. And I was sitting and I heard a spirit came to me and it was talking to me and it said, look at this careless life you're living. You don't even care about your health. Because when I break my leg, I didn't do any therapy. I came off the clinic. I didn't do anything at all, but I healed by the grace of God. And after there, 3 years later, I realized that spirit, I felt different. And that's when I decided I would actually listen to what that spirit was telling me. And I started to do a re-evaluation on my life because I realized I was seeing the same result each and every time in life and I wanted a change. So I made that change. In 2015, I started my journey with God with an interpersonal relationship. That is when I started to have the most closest possible interpersonal relationship with God. When I realized how I was living life and I realized living life wasn't right. And I started my journey with God. And living with God for 2015 to 2018 is one of the best feeling ever. Because trust me, my life has changed drastically. And trust me, last year something really bad happened to me. And that's what gave me my wake-up call when I went to jail last year, 2017. And when it happened, it was really a devastating situation because I was not prepared mentally for this situation. But I think God has prepared me physically, because I was home doing my home study, learning my Bible. And I recall I went to a church in Spanish Town, I will not forget. And I was in the church, the pastor was preaching, and I was crying, and my heart was crying out. I realized it was not me who was crying out, it was my heart. Because I tried to contain the tears, but it was not. And that's when I went to the altar, and I could recall going to the altar and crying out and said, Jesus, save me. I was crying, said, God, save me. And he did.